Hi Janeites, and welcome back to the What the Austen podcast. This is my birthday episode. It is my Charlotte Lucas birthday this year. I will be turning 27 in a couple of days. So I thought I would do a Q&A to celebrate. I have a trusty potato here to celebrate my Charlotte Lucas birthday. So yes, let the potato games begin. I guess it's time for my Mr. Collins to show up. Hopefully not. I have lots of questions from you guys, so thank you for everyone who sent them in on Instagram. We've got quite a lot to work through, so I'm hoping I'm going to get to all of them. But I'm excited to do this, and this is definitely, I think this is the first Q&A I've ever done, mostly because I was like, I don't think anyone wants me to come on and just sit down and answer questions and talk. I figured why not this year, you know, I'm going to be 27 and the podcast is going to be winding down after this year. I know that I've mentioned before, so yeah, why not answer some questions that you guys might have about Jane Austen, my life in general, the podcast. I kind of left it open to whatever you'd fancy. So I'm going to have to take like a moment to think about some of these. I didn't in advance prepare answers. We'll see where we get up to. Okay, so the first question that I got was, what was the first Jane Austen novel you read? So the first book that I actually picked up was Pride and Prejudice, and my parents actually brought me my first copy. They went to Lyme Park to see a outdoor production of Pride and Prejudice, and they brought me my first copy. I'll just grab it for those who are watching on YouTube. So this is my first ever copy. It's very battered and bruised now, and it was the one where Meg Cabot did the introduction, so the woman who wrote Princess Diaries. I never know if I'm pronouncing her name right. Yeah, I loved this one. And actually, what's so funny is when me and Elle were comparing, like we were talking about first reading it, this was actually Elle's first copy as well. Elle, who's on the podcast quite a lot. This was her first copy as well. So I feel like for one generation of young people in the UK, this was everyone's first copy of Pride and Prejudice. So yeah, I feel like it's really special anyway, and I love it. And I don't really do much with this one anymore. It used to just be in my memory box, but now I keep it out. But yeah, Pride and Prejudice was the first one that I read, and I do have like my little notes. I can't remember how old I was when I read this. I was in high school for sure, but I don't know if I was like 12 or something like that. Based off my handwriting and spelling, I was definitely young. Even though like I really did struggle with my handwriting and spelling and reading, to be fair, when I was younger, because I'm dyslexic, so it was definitely like a struggle a lot of the time. But I loved to read so much. I loved unpacking stories. I love just stories in general, and just characters and seeing how things developed. And yeah, it just gave me a lot of pleasure reading. So I mean, what a blessing that was the case, because it meant that I really stuck with it. And with time, my handwriting, my spelling, and my reading capability got so much better. And actually I was ahead of most people, to be fair, in like reading as I got older and things. And I was just so lucky, I ended up in like top set English, and then I was able to study it at uni as well. So if you're out there and you're dyslexic and you're thinking, I can't do literature, or I can't do English, or what I mean, it's like not for me, I really struggle with reading, what have you, like hold out hope, because it is possible. Like if you do have a passion for it, you can really find ways to support yourself to overcome the challenges that you face with that. So like audiobooks is a great example. Like I would listen to a lot of audiobooks, and then I often do this thing where I'll listen to audiobooks and read at the same time. That was really good for me, especially when I was in like sixth form and uni, to get my reading speed up. That helped so much, and it's made like a world of difference. And also the fact that then I could hear the words being said out loud really helped with spelling and everything. So anyway, I'm going on a whole tangent. Pride and Prejudice was the first book that I read, and I read this when I was quite young, and then I didn't really read any of the others until I was more sixth form age, so like 17, 18. I maybe read Northanger Abbey at 16. I don't know why I have a vivid memory of that being like the second book that I read. And then I think it was like Emma Sensibility. And then I came to Persuasion and Mansfield Park last. I don't think I actually read Mansfield Park until I was in uni, so when I was more about 18. Yeah, I pretty much stuck with this one. But Pride and Prejudice, the storyline, I already knew it because I'd grown up watching the 1995 Pride and Prejudice, and then the 2005 one came out. So I always say this to people, a great way to get into classic books like Austen or Bronte, Charles Dickens. I think if you already know the storyline when you're younger, it's so much easier to then pick up the book. So that definitely helped me out a lot. But I definitely just reread this one a lot in high school and then moved on to the others. So yeah, Pride and Prejudice was the first one. And I'm going to have a look. What's my next question? What are your birthday plans? Okay, so my birthday plans. This is a great question. I have a very exciting weekend plans. So my birthday actually falls on Monday, and it's Friday right now. So tonight, me and my mum are going to Chatsworth to see the open air cinema showing of the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. So I'm really excited for that. I booked tickets ages ago, and yeah, I think it's going to be really fun and just like a nice birthday celebration. So we'll be going for a meal before then. And then we'll be watching that, which will be great. And then tomorrow I'm spending the day with my friends. We are going for afternoon tea at Richmond Tea Rooms, I think it's called, in Manchester. This tea rooms looks incredible. I've never been before, but I'm so excited. So the whole tea rooms is themed, is Alice in Wonderland themed. And they often do like drag nights where, you know, like all these like actors will come in like dressed as like the characters and stuff, and like you can eat and, you know, have drinks and stuff, and it looks amazing. I would love to do that, but they didn't have the date that I wanted. So we're just going for afternoon tea, but the venue looks incredible. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That should be good. And then on Sunday, in the UK at least, it's Father's Day. So we'll be doing stuff for my dad that day. I think we're going to Gardener's World, which should be nice. So we're doing that because I think Monty Don's there, who's like, my dad loves Monty Don. So yeah, we're all going to do that for Father's Day. And then Monday's my birthday, which is actually a working day. But, you know, my work are very flexible and kind. And, you know, if I wanted to take a bit of time for my birthday, they're more than happy for me to do that. So I think I probably will do a couple of meetings that day, but then I am going to maybe take myself out for breakfast or lunch. I don't know. I'll have a think. I'm thinking of just doing something that I like. Might wander around a National Trust. I'll think of something, or just go to a bookshop. I'm not sure, but yeah, something that I like. But I think I'll spend it on my own. Like I quite enjoy doing things on my own nowadays. So especially after I've had like a busy weekend, it'll be just really nice to just spend my birthday by myself. And then I'll probably have dinner with my family that evening to like open presents and stuff. So yeah, those are my birthday plans. So it's going to be really fun this year. I'm really looking forward to it. And it's going to be really nice with my friends as well, because I have friends from all different stages of life, and we're all kind of coming together. So a few of them do know each other, but a lot of them don't. So like my closest friend from uni, Charlotte, she's never met, you know, my childhood friends who are going to be there and things. So it's it'll be nice, like people just coming together, and friends that I've made as I've gotten older. So yeah, everyone's kind of gonna come together, which is gonna be lovely. So yeah, that's the plan. Okay, let's have a look what the next question is. I feel like I need to tick these off, otherwise I'm gonna get confused. Okay, next question is, how has your opinion of Austen's heroes changed since you began podcasting? This is a great question. And I feel like I know this particular person who asked this question, she does listen to the podcast, and has done for many years now. So I can't even start to discuss how much my thoughts and feelings have changed. And they do change still continually. Every time I do an episode, I feel like I have different thoughts. Every time I do a reread, I think the past couple of years, my thoughts have changed more rapidly. And I think a lot of that is contributed to the fact that I have the book club now. So there was just a group of us who, when I first started the book club, it was kind of part of Patreon. And a group of us, you know, formed there. And then we've just kind of branched off, and it's no longer like a book club specifically for like the podcast and everything. It's kind of a private book club now, but it's people that I've met through doing the podcast, or just like going to Jane Austen things, people who want to be in the book club. And reading the texts, I think we've read all of them now together as a group. Maybe a few people have not read some of them because they joined later, but I think in the grand scheme of things, we've read all of them. And it's really just been wonderful to bounce my ideas off with a group of people and just hear their thoughts, and that's like changed a lot of my mindset on different things. So yeah, that's definitely made my thoughts on different characters and things progress. I saw this comment once. It wasn't a negative review of the podcast, but it was like, you know, not super positive. It was basically saying you know, that the tone of the podcast had changed, and that was like disappointing for them. That it maybe felt more negative in tone, which is absolutely fair, you know, if someone feels that way. I'd say probably what I noticed myself is I've just aged with the podcast. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously I'm like 27 now. And when I started the podcast, you know, I think I was like 23, 24. Yeah, I was probably about 23 when I started the podcast. And so much in my life has changed since when I started to now, that I'm just a bit like, yeah, in general, there's so many thoughts that I had when I was younger, or even in my early 20s, that have progressed dramatically because I've had different life experiences, or I've just grown up and I feel differently about certain things. So I'm trying to think like what my most significant things are. I think, like many people, I kind of admired Elizabeth Bennet a lot more when I was younger. And I think now I find difficulty sometimes with her character. I feel like she's not very forgiving, not very understanding. I think she can be quite harsh sometimes. I think there's amazing, wonderful things about her character as well, how strong she is, how steadfast she is to her beliefs and like what she wants for her life. I think there's wonderful things to take from her, but I've definitely lost like the rose-coloured tint that I probably saw when I was younger. I'm trying to think who else I feel differently about. I'm still very passionate advocate for Mary Crawford, and I also have a lot more empathy now for a lot of the characters that I probably brushed aside as like a joke, or someone that was just kind of like, you know, part of the plot but like a bit troublesome or villainous even. So like I think about characters like Lydia Bennet or Isabella Thorpe. There's just a few characters that I think are condemned, and I think I definitely did, like when I was first reading them, just kind of was like, you know, this is the opposition to our heroine. Now I see them very differently, and I'm just like, especially when I put it into context of Regency England and the world in which Jane Austen was living in, I have a lot more empathy for these women. In the book club, we just read Jane Austen's Bookshelf by Rebecca Romney, I want to say it is, which is a great book if you want to hear more about the predecessors who inspired Jane Austen, or contemporaries of her time who were writing, these other women writers. A lot of them I've read the books of, and there's episodes on the podcast that I do with Martha every year from Catherine Morland's book list, Catherine Morland's reading list. And so yeah, going through that and seeing all the struggles that they had in their own life and how difficult it was for them to live, and how writing was a necessity for them to make money so that they could survive, and still the challenges that they came up against, particularly with, you know, husbands, society, gossips. Like, there was just so much that they were having to deal with, and I just think it's made me empathise so much more with some of the kind of condemned of Austen's characters. I don't think Austen left them in to necessarily have them as an opposition to a heroine anymore. I think she left them in to be like, this is fiction. Like, the heroine's success in life is she's the exception, not the rule, and the rule is all these other characters who have these complicated lives and are trying, you know, their best to survive. So I think I definitely empathise a lot more with some of the secondary characters than I've ever done before. I used to idolise Henry Crawford a lot more than I do now. Not idolise, I feel like that's too strong a word, but I used to play down, I think, his flaws a little bit and kind of prefer Fanny to be with him. And although I think you know, you guys know that I cannot stand Edmund, like that's definitely enhanced, okay? My dislike of Edmund is enhanced through the years. But I think I've definitely started to dislike a lot of Henry Crawford's behaviour as well now. Like, I used to try and let him off because I was like, oh, he's single, what happened with Maria, it's fine. But I definitely feel much more strongly now that it's unacceptable either way, because he knew Maria was married, and so he should have, out of respect for Mr. Rushworth, not encouraged that. I think it's really inappropriate for his own gratification and entertainment at that time. So yeah, there's like a few different things where I just, yeah, I feel differently, and I think that was me just, I feel like for everyone, to be fair, like when we grow up reading the books, our viewpoints on different characters will just change as we change as people. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. I don't know if there's anyone like too shocking that I'm like, oh my goodness, but oh my goodness, like my thoughts on this person has totally changed. I'm trying to think, like, you guys listen to I have such a terrible memory, okay, which is probably why a Q&A is probably like quite a difficult thing for me to do, is yeah, my memory's always been shocking, especially my short-term memory, but then equally, like, my parents say all the time, like they'll talk about past holidays we went on. They were like, we shouldn't have taken you anywhere because you can't even remember any of it anyway. And I can't. I really do have a horrific memory. I think just naturally I'm just not inclined to have a strong memory. But on top of that, I think it gets worse with time. I try really hard to stay in the present moment, right? That's, for me, I think that's super important. I feel closest to source when I'm in the present moment, and just like in soul and just feeling at peace. But equally, when you do that all the time, it actually does affect your memory quite significantly because you just don't, you let things go in a different way. This is sounding so dramatic and spiritual, but yeah, I let things go quite quickly, and because of that I don't retain the information the same, and that does actually affect quite a lot of my life in a bizarre way. I feel very peaceful and just like much more content throughout life. I don't have as bad anxiety anymore because I do this, and but yeah, at the same time, like I have terrible memory. Like I have no idea. Me and my friends will just be like out in my best friend's got quite a good memory, and she'll just be like, oh my goodness, like that's blah blah who we went to school with, and I'll be like, I have never seen that person before in my life. And she'd be like, like you sat next to them in like history or something. I'll be like, I did? That's wild. So yeah, I really shocking. I have a shocking memory anyway. So I may have said in a podcast episode that I have significantly changed my viewpoint on what a particular heroine or hero. And now I can't remember. I suppose Colonel Brandon, that was one that was quite early on. Colonel Brandon in... When I was younger, I was like, ugh, this guy's such a creep, going after Marianne, and just, ugh. Whereas now, I'm like, Colonel Brandon, hello. I am very much a Colonel Brandon fan, and would have definitely picked him. But when I was younger, I definitely was like, oh no, Team Willoughby. But again, that's just an age thing, right? That you grow up and you value different things in romantic relationships. So, and also I'm closer to Colonel Brandon's age now, so I'm a little bit like, the man's in his 30s, it sounds all good to me. Okay, perfect. What else do we have here? Are you going to JAF this year? So the Jane Austen Festival. I am. Oh my goodness, gosh, guys, this is it's been such a story, and I'm not going to share too much here because I will vlog the whole process again. I've already started capturing bits because this planning process for this year has been, I think I started it around November, December time, because my plan this year was to go with some of the book club girlies. So I'm really excited because I have one person's coming from Australia, there's two people coming from the US and one person coming from Ireland. So we're all just like congregating. Yeah, we're all just congregating in Bath for the festival. And we're going to be there for the first weekend, so Friday to Monday, and then I'm staying on for a few days after they leave as well. But when I invited people, I invited them so early because I knew 2025 was just going to be crazy because it's the anniversary year. So I invited everyone super early. I got festival friends so that I can make sure that, we got priority access to tickets. But when festival friends went up this year, there was a cap on how many tickets you could buy with it. And you could only buy 4. And I'd agreed for 4 people to come with me, and that's what I'd booked accommodation for, and we were, getting sorted. And I was like, oof, okay, that makes things a bit tricky because it means I'd have to get, I volunteered, I would get my tickets in general sale, because I couldn't bear the idea, I invited 4 people and then they couldn't go to an event or something. Like, I just wouldn't have done that. And also, I wasn't going to say to someone, okay, somebody can't come anymore. That just wasn't, I would never have done that. So I'm really excited for us all to go. But the ticket experience this year was beyond horrendous. Yeah, it was just pretty shocking. And most things sold out in Festival Friends, and I didn't realise when it sold out in Festival Friends that meant some things were sold out completely. So I got tickets for my 4 friends for everything that we kind of planned as a group to go to, but then in general sale it was just impossible to get any extra tickets, and I was there right on time. I had all the information that I needed, but some of the events, for some it was like there was 1 ticket available, and it was just, impossible. I was never going to do it. So we are all going together, and there is some stuff that we've booked and we are able to do together, but there's a lot of the festival stuff. Like, I really wanted to go to Pleasure Gardens on this Sunday because that's an event specific to the anniversary year. So I got my book club friends who are coming with me, they've got tickets for that, but I've not yet got tickets. I'm on the waiting list. And then they're going to the Friday night ball, and I couldn't get tickets for that, so I'm going to the same ball but earlier in the day. Again, I'm on the waiting list, so I'm hoping I'll be able to go to the same ball as them. So it's really been quite chaotic this year, and I thought I'd go again next year, but it's been quite off-putting. And I must admit, like, I really do feel for the team who are working on the festival, because I just think it looks like such a massive programme this year. There's such an influx of more people who want to book these tickets because it's the anniversary year. So I really do feel for them, because I think they've got a hell of a job on their hands this year. And yeah, I've had to send quite a few emails to them because there was so much that I just didn't understand. Like, I was trying to read with like a magnifying glass these newsletters to try and make sure that I was following the rules and stuff, but it was incredibly confusing this year. So I had to send quite a few emails, and Rachel, who's responded to me, she's been nothing but lovely, and I can imagine that she's under a lot of pressure. So yeah, I feel like I'll probably get into it more in the festival vlog, because yeah, it's just been quite chaotic, and I have most people that I know, a lot of my friends, a lot of people I know who've been going for years. Some of them have no tickets, so I'm really grateful that I even have some, and that I've been able to get for my friends who are coming quite long distances to come to the festival. So yeah, mixed feelings about the festival this year. I'm very excited to go with my friends, but the process has definitely been much more stressful than I ever anticipated. But all of our accommodation, everything is pretty much sorted now for us. We are booked, and everyone coming with me, they're sorting their travel arrangements now. So yeah, it's gonna be really enjoyable when we get there, but it's definitely, I had heart palpitations, okay? Like, I was like, oh my god, this is how I die. I die buying Jane Austen festival tickets. Like, this is not how I need to go. Okay, so the next thing is, are you attending any Jane Austen Society of North America October conference in Baltimore? I'm not, because I live in the UK, so I mean, amazing if I could go over to Baltimore for that. But no, I'm not actually a member, because obviously I live in the UK. I was a member of the UK Jane Austen Society for a little bit, but a lot of their events were taking place in London, and after I moved, it was just like impossible for me to really go to those. So they were a bit sporadic, and I wasn't quite sure what my membership entailed. I don't know if anyone else has a membership with the Jane Austen Society, but yeah, it just was I've heard the North America one is incredibly well run. I know people who've like got generations of family members who've been members for that one. So, and I also am so grateful to the North America Society, because they've often been the ones funding a lot of projects in the UK, which has safeguarded a lot of Jane Austen landmarks and places, and like funded statues and all sorts. So I won't be there because I'm not a member and I live in the UK, but I'm very grateful for everything that the Jane Austen Society of North America do. What inspired you to start the podcast? So, gosh, like thinking back, me trying to find memories back here. Okay, so it was very much just an intuitive nudge. It was like maybe 18 months after I left uni, so when I graduated, and I'd studied English literature, so I'd spent 3 years analysing texts, and my last year was pretty much dedicated to Austen, because that's what I did my thesis on quite a few of her books, specifically focusing on like secondary characters, but I enjoyed that process so much, and analysing the text and writing that essay was a really special time. And when I left, I had a period of time where I genuinely couldn't pick up a book for ages. I think a lot of people feel this when they leave uni, like you're just so burnt out from the amount of reading and the amount of studying you've had to do that you just kind of recoil from it totally. And I definitely did that for a little while, so I was in a bit of a slump. But then when I started picking things back up again, I just really missed the conversations and the analysis that I had at uni. And then just one day I was like, oh, I'll start a Jane Austen podcast. I don't even know why I thought this. I don't even think I listened to many podcasts then. Because even though podcasts were big, they weren't like they are now. It's like a really oversaturated medium now. But at the time, like they weren't, taking over the world. And this was just before COVID as well, when I first started thinking about it. Or it was like as we were moving into COVID, and like we started to get the announcements about it. And so yeah, I just had the thought about it, and I remember saying to like some of my friends, I said to family members, and honestly I didn't even know there was like a Jane Austen community online at all anyway. So I was really, like, most people I spoke to were a little bit like, we support your projects, but like who's listening to this? And I was like, I have no clue. Maybe no one. But yeah, I just felt like an inclination to do it and to share my thoughts and ideas. And it definitely felt divinely led because I genuinely couldn't shake the idea. Like I had an intuitive nudge about it. I couldn't shake it. I couldn't let go of the idea. Like it really just lit me up. So yeah, I was actually starting my own business around the same time. It was quite an exciting time of my life. We were moving into COVID. I quit my job. I had to move back home because I started my own business and I wasn't sure whether or not it would take off. And I started the podcast at the same time. So it was a bit of a crazy time, to be fair. I felt like I was really rediscovering myself in many ways then. Like I did feel quite lost after I left uni and kind of went into the working world, and I think I was a bit disillusioned quite quickly with that. So yeah, it was amazing, an amazing time, and that's what started it. So yeah, I guess I don't know. It was divinely led. Source gave me a download to start a Jane Austen podcast, and it was on my heart. So that was always in my soul's plan, apparently, that I was going to do this. And honestly, it's been one of the best things I've ever done. So I'm so grateful for this whole experience and opportunity, and I'm glad I took the opportunity. So I guess the main message that I can say from this is if you do feel like your heart is calling you to do something, and you're like, I don't know, that you can't shake the idea and it just feels right and exciting, but also, nerve-wracking because these things are challenges, right? But if you feel like that about something, I really recommend doing it because I couldn't have even imagined where this podcast has taken me and like all the friends that I've met through it and just how much I've grown as a person doing it. So yeah, I'm forever grateful that I took that opportunity when I felt it, when I felt the calling for it. So yeah, that was the podcast story. Oh, this is someone just asking which day my birthday is so they could send me a card, which is very nice. Who's another classic author you love besides Austen? This is a great question. I've got to be honest, I don't love any classic author as much as I love Jane Austen. I love certain books by particular authors. I've really resonated with them and been like, oh my goodness, this is an amazing book. I love this. I felt that way about Great Expectations, Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. I felt that way about Edith Wharton's The Age of Innocence. I loved that. There's some books that I've read. I think Wuthering Heights is another one, right? There's some books that just really stick with you when you read them. And then when I've been reading a lot of like books that were written by Jane Austen's contemporaries or like people who came before her, I've really fallen in love with those as well. Like I love The Castle of Waldenbach, and I really enjoyed Mysteries of Udolpho as well. There's been a lot that I've really enjoyed. I loved Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. That was incredible. I really enjoy even just Dracula and stuff. There aren't many. I've loved a lot of classic literature that I've read, but there is no author that I feel the same way about as I feel about Austen. Even with contemporary writers, so even modern books that I've read, I've never had the same feeling or connection or love for any book or lore set of books, whole collection as I feel about Jane Austen's work. And I suppose that's why I've been able to keep unpacking them and revisiting them, is because I have this devotion to them that I don't feel about any other author or writing. I also love a lot of classical writing, as in not classic literature, as in classical Greek mythology, folklore stories of that kind. And so I do a lot of reading around that. In equally, I think I just fall in love with stories. It's not necessarily authors. And sometimes I've tried to emphasize this on the podcast as well, is I think in recent years I've explored Jane Austen's life a lot more, but definitely when I started the podcast, it was very much book fast. I was focusing on the text, on the characters, and I didn't dive so much into Jane Austen's world because for me, it's the stories that she created that I fell in love with. It wasn't necessarily her as a person. That has progressed as time's moved on, and the more I've learned about her, the more I love her as this person who created these works. But yeah, and so I suppose in that sense, it's stories that I fall in love with, and there's a lot of stories that I've really enjoyed, and I'd love to see stories performed in different ways. So I'm not necessarily like a massive film buff, but like I love the ballet. I love going to like opera, seeing theatre, and just like reading different books about different worlds and things. So I feel that's such like a roundabout way to say I don't feel this way about anyone else, but there are loads of books that I have loved over the years, and even like growing up. And then there's books that I've, really just not enjoyed. I also read a lot of non-fiction. So for every fiction book that I read, I probably read at least one non-fiction at the same time. I tend to read one and balance the things out. So yeah, I also read a lot of non-fiction, but most of the non-fiction I read is usually spiritual or like witchy based. So yeah, I guess that's a roundabout way to say I don't feel this way about anybody else. I love people who write in like a really lyrical way, and it feels almost like poetry at points. It's kind of a similar writing style that I have myself, and so yeah, I just really lean into that, and I really love it. I've always loved music in that sense, but like I love music with good lyrics, like lyrics that hold a storyline throughout. That's why I love Ethel Cain stuff, but like when I was growing up, my parents, like, we used to listen to Marillion all the time in the Fish years, and like when Fish used to write those albums and those songs, they had like consistent narratives that ran through the albums, and yeah, I loved that, and that's something that's really stuck with me through life. So I guess it's a roundabout way to say that I don't feel this devotion to any one particular classic novelist apart from Jane Austen, but I do appreciate a lot of different stories, which I can't think of them all right now, but there's been loads that I've definitely loved, and I'm happy at some point to like unpack it, but I feel like it would be forever if I was like going through all books that I've really really enjoyed. Best Jane Austen fan community memory so far. My ball, surely. This one's from Sophie, laughing with Lizzie. Your ball was amazing. I had the best time, and if you haven't seen my ball vlog, I really recommend watching it, especially if you're planning to go to a ball this year, or even if you don't get the chance to go to a ball this year, so you just want to kind of immerse yourself in some of the other events that are going on in the UK at the moment. Yeah, do watch my ball vlog, because it was just a really wonderful evening. I had the best time, and everyone was so kind and welcoming, and so I did love that. But I think my favourite memory so far that I've had in the Jane Austen community was probably my first festival experience with Kaylee, which was also all vlogged. That was really special, and not even particularly because we're at the Jane Austen Festival, which obviously is always an amazing event every year. It was just experiencing it with Kaylee. I think something that I really missed out on growing up, even though I grew up in the UK and all these events were always, going on for many years, is I never really had people to go with. Like, I didn't have friends who would, even if they enjoyed Austen, they didn't love Austen to the extent that they would, go to events and, dress up and things. So I guess what I've loved, I guess in the creating the podcast and the community and everything, is the friends that I've made, and being able to go to the Jane Austen Festival for the first time and going with Kaylee, who I never would have met if it hadn't been for the podcast, because she's based in the US, I'm based here, and just coming together to do that, it just felt like such a great celebration of just like the years of friendship that we'd had virtually, because I think we'd met up in person twice before or once before, but obviously it's not very often because we live so far apart. So there was something just really special about it, and it just felt like, I think for both of us, just one of those moments where you get that opportunity to embrace this like Jane Austen experience, but with a close friend, was something that I'll just remember forever. And I'm so glad that I vlogged the whole thing. And you know what? When I watched the vlog, like, it's also one of my favourite things that I've ever captured, because it was so authentic. Like, everything that I do, I try to be authentic. I don't try to make it performative in any way. Like, I try to just capture exactly what happens. But I felt my heart and soul in that vlog. Like, it felt like I was capturing the energy that we had in the moment of being there. And so, even if I'd never posted it publicly, I always said to Kaylee, like, I'm so glad I'm capturing this, because there's something so special that we'll always be able to look back on. And yeah, so that's definitely still is it a core memory for me, going to the Jane Austen Festival with Kaylee. So yeah, that's a really special memory for me, and probably my favourite so far. But your ball is definitely up there. That was such a special evening, which I'll also be remembering forever. I mean, I say this, but my memory's terrible, so you'll be reminding me about forever. This is why it's good that I vlog things, because honestly, it'd be gone. It's gone. I'm Dory. It's just like new thing in my brain, like new present moment, and the past things have all gone. But yeah, I loved it so much, and I can't wait to go to more. I'm already booking into more of Sophie's balls. I'm so excited. Okay, which Jane Austen character would you most like to interview and why? Fab question. Um, oh, this is such a good question. I would interview Fanny. I feel like Fanny is the character that I struggle the most to fully understand her motives, actions, and just like the whole outcome of her story. And so I'd love to interview her, to like sit down with her and be like, what is going on? Like, why do you stick with this family? Why do you despise people who are genuinely trying to be kind and helpful like Mary is? Like, I feel like Mary is a genuine friend at some points. What is this devotion to Edmund that I can't quite comprehend? Like, I feel like I'd have so many questions for Fanny, but also just in general as well. Like, I'd love to understand her more. I feel like we get snippets of her true self, and she talks about like nature and like poetry, and she's quite a deep, just like she's a very deep person, and I feel like there'd be so much to unpack there that I don't think we get to explore through her character in the book, because there's so many other characters in that book to focus on as well. And she's just not quite like a strong enough character in the sense of like an Emma or Elizabeth, that she pulls herself into the forefront of your reading when you're exploring that book. I'm just going to shut the thing because there's like a dog going absolutely mental. I actually think it's the little dachshund across the road, but I think his parents go out to work, to the office, and he's kind of just left it, and he obviously doesn't like it a lot, so I actually feel quite bad for him. Yeah, I'd love to unpack her thoughts. It would be great to just sit down with her and discuss and just try and understand her better, because I feel like I really do struggle to understand her more than any other of the characters. Okay, what's next? Favourite Jane Austen book? Also, which character do you think you're most like? Okay, there's like 2 questions here. Favourite Jane Austen book? The tricky question. My favourite book, it just always changes. I think I say this all the time. It changes on what mood I'm in, what stage of life I'm in. I think I discussed this with Kaylee on an Unpopular Opinions episode once. I think in a complete sense, if I put all of my thoughts together, my favourite book is probably Pride and Prejudice. It's such a comfort read to me. There's a nostalgia read in it that I don't necessarily have with any of the other ones. Hi, sweet boy, you okay? You okay, my sweet boy? And I love the storyline. I really enjoy the characters. There's something just like, wonderful about that book that I really do feel passionately about. This year I've been inclined more towards Emma, but I think it's because I've been doing a lot of Emma-based work, because I'm recording a local theatre group with their process of creating Emma. It's going to be performed in the round at a local national trust. So I feel like because I've been immersed in it, it's probably my favourite one this year. But yeah, it definitely always changes, but I'd say Pride and Prejudice is my consistently favourite Austen book. There's been years where it's been Persuasion. I've just absolutely adored that book, and sometimes you feel in those more kind of melancholy, somber times, and maybe as I turn 27, maybe Persuasion will become my favourite again. Maybe I'll find, because I'll have more in common with Anne Elliot than some of the younger heroines. Not that I'm at all old at this point. But yeah, I'd say Pride and Prejudice is my kind of ultimate favourite Jane Austen book. If I have to pick, which heroine do you think you're most like? So I used to really struggle with this question. I really couldn't see myself in any heroines until my younger brother, actually, who I'm really close with, he said to me once, he was like, I feel like you're a combination of Emma Woodhouse and Jane Bennet. And honestly, nothing has ever resonated more than when he said that. I was just like, yes, like this makes a lot of sense to me. So I would say that I think I have the mind of Emma, but the soul of Jane, if that's possible. So I definitely It sounds like these two characters would not go together, but for somehow I feel like I am the manifestation of this being the case. I feel like in many ways I am quite similar to Emma. There's some moments, like especially like the debate she has with Knightley about Robert Martin and stuff. There's just like certain moments in it that I'm just like, yeah, that is me. And then like 5 seconds later, she's like, "Oh, we're friends again. It's all good. Like it's all fine." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, that is absolutely so me. Like I would act that way, and I would make just like hilariously. Well, I think they're hilarious. Offhand comments about certain things. Like there's the most hilarious line where Emma's speaking to Harriet and she's like, "Oh my goodness, lose you to Abbey Mill Farm, to the illiterate and all this lot." And I'm just like, it does sound really harsh when she's saying it, but I feel like I'd say like the most ridiculous stuff like that sometimes to my friends, like the fear of losing them to someone that I didn't feel was like worthy of their love, because like I always think my friends are amazing, so I always want the best for them. And Emma is like playful, I do think she's kind at heart as well. Like I don't think she's a bad person. I think she makes mistakes, and I can definitely see my younger self more in Emma. I think as time's passed, I'm probably less of an Emma than I was when I was younger. Although I could never imagine saying what she does to Miss Bates. I guess this is where my like Jane Bennett side comes in. Is I feel like I hold a lot of empathy for people. I really struggle with anything that would be like too distressing for others, and particularly animals as well. Oh my goodness! I accidentally in the dark when I was walking Hoggy stepped on a snail the other day, and honestly, it just like it derailed me for the whole day. And I like to think as well that I'm not so quick to make snap judgments on people, and be like, this person's good, this person's bad. I feel like I'm quite good at seeing the nuance in ways that Jane is as well, and just like appreciating that, people are complicated. It's not always so simple that like this person's a bad person, this person's a good person. And I'm not necessarily gonna hunt someone down to say, like, if I feel an issue with something and it's someone close to me and something's made me uncomfortable, or I feel conflicted about something, I'm trying my best nowadays to speak up about it and just say, this makes me uncomfortable. Like I love you either way, but I just want you to know that this doesn't resonate with me and it makes me feel uneasy. And I think as well, like, I'm inclined to try and see the best in people in the same way that Jane is, and sometimes that doesn't always work out unless I get like super super awful energies off someone. Like sometimes that happens and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna be nice to them, but they give me weird energy. I can't be around them. But other than that, I try, and even people like that as well. Like I don't think there's anyone that I hate. There's one person in particular that I can think about that I'm like, I don't hate them, but I really just don't want them around anyone that I care about, because they give me the worst of energies when I'm near them. But I still empathize with them. And, I feel like there's a reason that they are the way that they are and they treat people the way that they do. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a weird mixture of the two. I'm also like Jane Moore in like my romantic nature. Like, what I mean? Like when I like fall for someone, I'm very, very private about it. Like I don't like people to know my business. I don't like people questioning me about it. I like things to just unfold privately. In the same way that I think Jane does, which can, as it is for Jane, be at my detriment, because I think sometimes that can mean that I'm not necessarily always clear about my feelings, and I do rely sometimes on people giving me the nudge to then feel like I can be vulnerable, as opposed to me just like, gushing out all my thoughts and feelings of life. So I'm a balance. I'm a balance of Emma Woodhouse and Jane Bennett, I think. I think my brother really, in my view, that's the closest I've ever got to feeling like someone's nailed it in terms of which characters I most alike. So yeah, that's that one. Oh, this is a lovely question. Any tips for finding friends who share love of Jane Austen? Yes, I will think of some tips. I would say, obviously, the majority of my friends have come since I started creating content about Austen. Obviously, I started the podcast, but the way that I actually met people was through Instagram. So when I just started sharing posts about Austen, I just drew in like-minded people. What I will say as well is I think I did benefit from the time that I joined the community and like started making this content, because it coincided with the start of COVID, and obviously a lot of countries went into lockdown, and so I think a lot of people were flocking online to find this sense of community and belonging, and to not feel so lonely. So I think it was, when I first did it, I think it was probably a lot easier to make friends in that moment. However, I think it's super easy now as well. I think my ball experience really showed that you can go to these events on your own and everyone is so welcoming and excited for you to be there and wants to get you involved. And so, I mean, the thing is as well, like when I go to these events, I will say you do have to put yourself forward. Like, I'm that person who'll just like go around. I'm like, hi, I'm Izzy. And I'll just introduce myself to people. Because, you know, if I'm there on my own, you kind of have a responsibility over yourself to have the best experience possible. So, you know, if I just sat in the corner and didn't engage with anyone, then it probably wouldn't have been as enjoyable of an evening. But I did make the effort to make sure I was going up to people. And I went to a flower crown workshop before, which really helped because I'd been sat down doing something like a crafty project with all these other women who were then going to be at the ball later, or at least a few of them were. So I'd already kind of set the foundations so I did know a few people from that. So I would really recommend, if there is anything like that, like a bonnet making class. I know Abby runs a lot of embroidery classes where they do like Jane Austen embroidery. So I feel like a crafty thing that's like Jane Austen themed is a great way to meet other Jane Austen fans or like-minded people. A book club is another great one. Like, I've made so many friends through my book club, just so many like wonderful women. And to be honest with you, we're all like in a kind of similar stages of life. Some of us are slightly different, but there's at least like a few of us who are kind of all stages of life kind of mirror. So there's a lot we take from each other that isn't just Jane Austen related. Like, we would make good friends outside of that as well, and like our conversations prove that we have. I'm trying to think where else. So yeah, Instagram, crafty things. I do recommend just going to some of the events. I think it can be a little bit daunting, especially with balls sometimes, but Abby and Sophie's balls are so welcoming, and they're not huge like, you know, the Jane Austen Festival ones are, or I know Chatsworth's running some events this year, which I feel like seem a much larger scale event. There's something much more intimate about Abby and Sophie's that I feel like it's much easier to get to know people. You know, with the promenade at the festival last year, people were just chatting to each other. I really think it is that you just have to start these conversations. But I now I'm thinking about it, I think probably the best way, especially now that we're not in lockdown and we can actually go out, is looking for like crafty or more intimate settings where, you know, Jane Austen fans are getting together to do something. So you're not just like necessarily sat chatting, but you can, like, you know, like I was making a flower crown, you can make a bonnet, embroidery, like I was saying. There's quite a lot of different things like that is what I'd really recommend to meet people. And there's so much going on in all different areas at the moment. I know Jane Austen House has a lot of things going on at the moment. Chawton House does, Chatsworth, Lyme Park. They're all like hosting certain things. So if you can get involved with something like that, have a look at what Abby is doing, like where her embroidery workshops are, because that's another great way to meet just really kind, like-minded Jane Austen fans. So yeah, best of luck with it though. And if you're ever at an event that, you know, I'm at, please come over and say hi, because I'd love to meet you. And I'm always happy to introduce people to, you know, other people, and just, yeah, keep growing the community. If you could own any Austen house, which would it be? I think I'd own Barton Cottage, to be honest with you. Like, I'm a cottage girl at heart. Like, if I could think about like my dream life, like it's giving like Beatrix Potter, I want to live in the Lake District with a cottage, with some animals in lots of land, put all of my extra income into preserving the natural landscape, and just like walk and read and live a life of solitude, okay, in my little cottage. So yeah, I think Barton Cottage would probably be the one that I'd be most happy with. I like cozy homes. I'm not particularly interested in having like, you know, massive estates. Although I would love to be able to just walk hoggy on my own. There's some really nice people around here, but like sometimes I like to just walk and just be in my own thoughts and not bump into anyone. So I guess the benefit of a massive estate would be that I could walk the grounds and nobody else is there. But no, I think Barton Cottage would suit me nicely. Yeah. Although I'd want Barton Cottage, but to have it in Highbury, I think, because I love a little like small town feel where there's like community events that you can go to. Like, I want the mixture of solitude, but also like being involved with the community. So I think that would be ideal. Okay. What other authors do you enjoy reading? Okay, this changes all the time for me. I'm currently reading VC Andrews' Dollenganger series, right? So it starts with Flowers in the Attic and then carries on. I'm on Seeds of Yesterday now. when I explained to you that this series has got me absolutely enthralled, like it's just captured everything, all of my senses. Any free time that I have, I'm reading. Like most people who know me know that I can easily go to sleep at like 8 o'clock, even earlier sometimes. Like I'm boom out. This book has me up till 10 reading. Like I am there. I can't put it down. Like this series, I can't put it down. I think she's an incredible writer. She's very similar to, I'd say, Daphne du Maurier, Agatha Christie, and then also has kind of has like some elements of like an Edith Wharton style writer as well. All of these like things combined, but she's a beautiful writer and I'm really enjoying it. I'd say the most similar experience I had to reading this series is probably reading Rebecca, because that the same way that book really gripped me, and I actually love having a like stream of consciousness, following one character throughout. In for at least the first 2 books, you do that with Kathy, who's the main character, and she is no Mary Sue. Like, and this is what I love as well. I feel like we're oversaturated at the moment with women characters who are portrayed without flaws, without weaknesses. Some have all these miraculous skills and they aren't complicated at all. It's like, this is what they do, this is what they want, and they're going to succeed. What I've loved about this series is Kathy is not like that at all. Like, she has her strengths, she does, but she has all this inner turmoil. She has a lot of troubling things happen to her. She isn't perfect, you know, she has this desire for revenge that consumes her for like throughout a lot of the books. She's just incredibly complicated, but then she's also just like passionate and ambitious, and there's so much to her character which I think is so enjoyable and so realistic, and just she really draws you in because she's not annoying. You know, there's so many characters nowadays where I'm just like, especially women characters, I'm like, why are we losing how dynamic most women are? I'm like, most women are these like multifaceted beings, and you know, so are men as well. I'm just saying from the perspective of women and being friends with the women and, you know, spending a lot of time with women. There's so much that should be unpacked, and I really hate it when women just portrayed as these just like strong, perfect characters. And I'm just like, you're missing the nuance. But VC Andrews does not. Okay, this series is incredible. I struggled slightly with book 3, which was If There Are Thorns, because that was following actually 2 other characters in. It got very dark in some places, and there was like violence towards animals and stuff, and that really just not my cup of tea. But I did push through because the storyline in general I loved, and now I'm on Seas of Yesterday, which is back with Kathy's stream of consciousness. So yeah, I just love it. I love exploring it through her eyes, and it's gothic, it's complicated, it's gothic, it's troubling, it's unhinged. Like, parts of it are super disturbing, but also there's something so beautiful about it, and I think that is Andrew's writing style. Like, her writing is beautiful. There's something incredibly poetic about even just like snippets of it that I'm just like, oh, I just love it. And the references back to the other books. Look, at the end of the day, I think at the moment we are lacking in really good quality writing, or at least what we're being pushed nowadays to read a lot of the time is lacking in quality. Okay, I'm going to put it out there. And that's not because there aren't incredible writers out there, but unfortunately a lot of the times the incredible writers aren't getting picked up to be published at the moment because there's just this overconsumption of literature, people wanting, you know, quick gratification when they're reading. Honestly, everything's coming out like it's come off Wattpad. And nowadays, like, everything's just, yeah. A lot of the stuff is not great writing, but this is beautiful. Really recommend it. I would say I'm only reading the ones that were actually written by VC Andrews, like they're confirmed written by her. So there'll be one more book that I'm reading in this series, which is like a prequel to the series. And that'll be it for the Doppelganger one, because she what happened for VC Andrews is she died after only writing a certain amount of books, and they hired a ghostwriter, this guy, I can't remember his name, and he's written like hundreds of books under her name since that point, and the quality's gone down massively. And honestly, the whole thing kind of wigs me out. I really don't like the idea of this guy like coming in and doing it. Like, if I died and my family did that, and I had like, you know, these incredible books that I'd written that were like, you know, my babies, and then some guy comes in and starts writing under my name, like a ghostwriter, but who's known, and he's using my name to write and continue on my stories, but in a much lesser quality. I mean, talk about killing me twice. Like, that would kill me twice. So out of principle, I won't be reading the other ones that he's written, because it doesn't sit well with me. Anyway, so yes, love that. That's what I'm reading at the moment. Really enjoying it. Other authors that I really enjoy, let me have a think. I read a lot of I read a lot of YA fantasy at the moment because I'm actually finding it's often written a lot better than adult fantasy, especially romantasy. Like I don't need like 10,000 pages of like smut. Like it's we had this whole conversation in the book club. It honestly like winds me up. I feel like they're so desperate to get to that the rest of the book, the quality of writing is just horrendous. There's things that don't make sense. The plot's like falling apart. Look, this is propaganda I'm not falling for. Like I am not falling for what's being pushed on Book Talk. I'm not even on Book Talk, but I'm not falling for it. Okay. I'm trying to think what else I've like really. I don't know because my head's just like totally consumed by VC Andrews at the moment. I'll have a think if there's like any others. There's a few non-fiction writers that I really enjoy. If you're interested in anything that's like witchy based or spiritual, I loved Lucy Pierce's book Burning Woman. That was incredible. I like anything by Michael Singer, particularly Untethered Soul. I think that's a beautiful book. If you're interested in anything that's like more spiritual based, and I love anything by Lisa Lister. If you're interested in anything that's a bit more witchy, Lisa Lister, everything that she writes, I consume. It's amazing. And what have I just been reading recently as well? Oh, the Emily Wilde series. So I loved book 1. I wasn't 100 on book 2, but I am enjoying book 3 at the moment. So that's a great series. That's like YA, fantasy, that holds tight to folklore, which I'm absolutely, yes, that's something that I absolutely love. I actually did really enjoy the Stephanie Garber series, the Once Upon a Broken Heart one and Caraval, which I feel like is something that was probably pushed a little bit more widestream, but I enjoyed that. There was parts where I was like, the plot's kind of falling apart here, but I love like a fairy tale-esque storyline. I can't remember what else I've been reading now. I read all different types of genres, so it's hard for me to keep track, but I'll share on Instagram if there's anything else, but I really recommend reading the Dollaganga series, Flowers in the Attic by VC Andrews, and the other books that she wrote as well. Let's have a gander. What is your degree in? Did you study Austen in school? Yes, so my degree is in English literature, and I did study Austen. We did a couple of Austens in some of the other modules, and then I did my thesis on Austen. It was mostly about how Austen often sacrifices some of the secondary women characters to basically prop up her heroine. So like people like Charlotte Lucas, who, you know, goes for like the pragmatic marriage, people like Isabella Thorpe. And then I was talking about, you know, at the end of the thesis, I was kind of talking more about the other side of things and like the foil between Emma and Miss Bates. It was a long time ago when I wrote it, but that was, what I focused on. I can't even remember what my thesis was called. It was something like the two sides of the same. Was it two sides? I can't remember what it was called, but I really enjoyed writing it, and I got a first in it. So it was thoroughly enjoyable. And the nicest compliment I ever got was actually from my dissertation tutor. She said to me one day, I came in and I was like, we were talking through some of my work that I was doing, like some of the chapters, and I was literally just like, I was explaining this thing to her, how I was going to change stuff, and she said to me, she goes, your knowledge of Austen is far surpassing mine right now. And I was just like, you know, that's the best compliment I ever could have got. I mean, little did I know that in a few years' time I would start a Jane Austen podcast and start making content and realise that I am a very small fish in a big pool. But at that time in my life, it was the best compliment I could have got from a woman who's a lecturer and a professor at a uni and has got like PhDs and things. So I was like, thank you. What would you say to Jane Austen if you had the chance to meet her? Oh, blimey, what a question. I'd probably ask her whether or not if it was worthwhile to get the success now after she'd passed, or whether she would have preferred this level of success while she was alive, because I think that would be really interesting to kind of gauge her thought processes about her writing. I think there's like a lot of people and ah whether or not, some people are like, oh, she really wouldn't have wanted, you know, all this, you know, fame and success and what have you, and then other people are like, no, she would have. I think she would have appreciated the success. I think she saw herself as a genius, which is actually why the work she created was the work of a genius. I feel like you have to have that level of delusion. Even if you are incredible, like you have to have that level of delusion about yourself for it to actually stick. And I think she did especially now I've read like a lot of her contemporaries, like the other women writers, and how a lot of them really struggled with imposter syndrome, like dramatically, in a way that I just don't see Austen doing. And I feel like she really did hold herself quite high. I think that's why she didn't go to like literary events and meetups and things in her lifetime. I think she knew she was an incredible writer. She wanted the success for that, but she didn't necessarily, you know, want. I think she wanted it in like a from the critics and things. I think she wanted people to appreciate how good she was, which a lot of people do now. But then there's also the whole like kind of more gimmicky pop culture fame side of it, which I don't know if she'd appreciate. But that's the question that I would ask her. I would ask her whether or not it was worth it to gain the success years later after she'd passed. Even though she was successful in her time, but I mean the level of success that she has now and how you know, famous she is now. In her legacy, like, was it worth it to be a legacy, or would she have preferred to have experienced it in her lifetime, is what I would ask her. I would also ask her a lot of other things as well, but that's the one that's coming to mind right now. Let's have a look. God, we still have loads to get through. Congratulations if you're still with me. You can witness the potato again if you're watching on YouTube. Here is the potato. I'm actually growing my own potatoes. I have an allotment now in, I've got loads of potatoes. Some of them are going to be coming up soon because I put some earlies in, so that's exciting. Okay, that's great. That's actually really fitting as well, because the next question is, what is your preference for cooked potatoes? Jacket, chips, boiled? This was my favourite question that came up. I'm a bit of Mr. Collins. I like an excellent boiled potato, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't like mash very much at all. No, the texture really freaks me out. Jacket potato is okay, like if I have to. I don't mind chips as well, but I'm not always fussed. So it's going to be boiled with some butter on. Yeah, absolutely. Very tasty. And my dad has homegrown like new potatoes, so those boiled, yeah, with some butter. Lush. That is my preference. Boiled potato, like Mr. Collins. But it's got to be excellent. What's the most romantic thing anyone has ever done for you? I just thought of one there, but I'm not going to be able to... I can't share that one because I don't think the person who did it knows that I know that they did this. This is the back to the thing, like, I'm such a private person, I probably wouldn't say this. What I will say is, I think I appreciate the way that Darcy is romantic. So like this thing that I'm thinking about, the fact that this person doesn't know that I know, but like they left enough hints that, you know, the trail was there that I could, you know, figure it out, and like it was likely that I would find out. But I actually much prefer that. Something that I really despise, even if it's something that's really lovely, I really hate it when people do romantic things for me, kind of for their own benefit, in the sense that like they think they'll get brownie points for doing it. For me, it just kind of really defeats the point. And I don't know if that's because I have grown up with Austen and just like, you know, with Mr. Darcy, like when he does all of that stuff for Elizabeth, he doesn't want her to find out. She finds out by chance. But he does it because he loves and respects her anyway. And I guess that's something that's always like really sat with me. I feel like something's romantic if someone does something because they love and respect you. They want to get to know you on a soul level. And it doesn't matter if you know or not, because they did it in a loving way about you, not because you know that they've done it and therefore you'd love them better. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense there. Yeah. So in a bizarre way, I like romantic gestures that I may or may not find out about, but someone did because they knew it was something that I would love or would be important to me. But they don't do it for the notoriety that they could get from me by doing it. There's nothing I despise more than people who say things to me like, oh, I was going to do this. Mike, you just put a slap around the face. And also, like, why have you just exposed yourself as somebody who's not done the thing that you were going to do that's romantic? I just, yeah. So yeah, I'm probably not going to share. I'd say, if you want like an antidote that isn't particularly that, but like one of the most, say, kind of romantic things that has happened to me, I had the nicest meet cute that I've ever had so far in my life. That definitely, again, felt very like divinely orchestrated. I was, this was last year now. Actually, it was pretty much last year to the day. It was probably like, yeah, it was around when the Taylor Swift's Eras tour was on, because I was actually coming back from the Eras tour and it's first thing in the morning. I was getting a train. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was at London Euston. And all of the trains were getting cancelled, and you know it was all the trains that were running to Manchester, and that's where I was trying to get back to. And it was like people were really stressed and stuff, and I was just like, you know, everything happens for a reason. So I was just like chilling. I was like, I'll get back when I get back. You know, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, I was just like, like, you know, just be my happy self. Anyway, and I'd seen this man nearby, and I was like, oh, he's attractive, but you know, I didn't really think too much of it. And then he disappeared, and then it turned out that he'd like moved, and he was like behind me. Anyway, and we got talking because he was also trying to get what I thought was the same train as me. And we were just like discussing the fact that it was cancelled and things. And we, like, he took my bag and we tried to get on one of the trains because there were like a few still running. And we had to get off the train. It was all a bit of a drama. We went to speak to this conductor, and he was just like, oh no, like, you definitely need to come back after lunch. Because there was like, you're not going to get a train before this point. And we were like, oh goodness, okay. And he was just like, oh, should we go for a coffee? Yeah, and then coffee turned into us spending like the whole day together, and it was like such a lovely experience. And I just had like the nicest time with him. We got on so well. And then he ended up like getting the train with me later, only for me to find out after he got the train all the way back with me. This was quite late in the afternoon by this point, that he was actually trying to get to Wales. And he was like picking a car up. So I was like, oh my God. So he had to like, it took him ages to basically get to his destination because he'd come like 2 hours on the train with me and then had to try and get like to Wales. And in the end, I don't think he got back to his house until like 4 a.m. the next day. But I ended up dating him for like 3 months. He was very lovely. I had a great time with him. But anyway, moral of the story is, because I think this is a good thing to share about just like romantic experience and things. I feel like there's kind of a doubt in society now that people can meet in person and that you can have these experiences and like meet cutes. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's something right out of a book. I was like, I'm going to remember this forever. And it didn't really bother me whether or not the relationship, wherever that went, because I was just like, I feel like some connections are meant to be short term anyway, and like temporary things that you have with people. And I think people are meant to come in your lives, but they're not always meant to stay. And so I was happy with like the fluidity of how that all went. It was fine. But that moment of, you know, like that experience was something so special that I was just like, and I tell my friends as well when they feel disheartened and they think like, I've got to be on the dating apps and do this. And I'm not saying dating app, there's anything wrong with being on a dating app, but I always used to say to them, I was like, oh, but you can meet people in person, because that's just been my experience in life. And I don't think they quite believe me. And I feel like this experience was like such a lovely antidote that now I can use to be like, well, remember, like, I met, you know, recently I met X through this experience. And like, I'd met my ex the same way, but it was when we were much younger. And so, not the same way, but like in a in-person way. And so, yeah, it's just been like a nice thing to remind people that, you know, there are opportunities. Like, if you're meant to meet people, you will, and you can meet them in the most unexpected circumstances. And I would say things can happen and they can feel like such inconveniences at the time, but they might be moments in which something magical can happen that you don't expect. And so, yeah, that was my point of telling that story, because I'm not going to tell you the romantic thing that I can remember, because I don't think that person even, you know, like, they don't know that I know that happened, and I don't think they listen to the podcast, but in case they are curious, I really don't want to out that whole situation. But yeah, it was yeah, that's something romantic that has happened to me. There wasn't necessarily someone doing something for me, but you know, the experience was lovely. Okay, what was your favorite book growing up? Oh, okay, so my favourite books growing up were actually the Rainbow Magic series. I don't know if anyone remember this. I can't remember even who wrote them because I was so young. Let me have a look. Man, it looks like they actually have like multiple authors now, but when I read them, I'm pretty sure it was Daisy Meadows who wrote them. And I love this series so much. And when I first started reading them as well, it was like when it was just like the Colour Fairies. So it was like the first couple of books. And I loved these books so much when I was younger. And I mean, there's like, hundreds of the things now. But yeah, when I was younger, it was like kind of the Colour Fairies, like the rainbow ones. So it was like the first start of the series. And they were amazing. It was about like all these different fairies, and there was like this, I think it was like the Ice King or something, and he was like the villain, and they all had these like their own stories. So it was like Ruby the Red Fairy, and it was like I can't remember what the other ones were called, but this is such a special thing. So I was reading, well, my parents would read them to me, to be fair. I think like eventually, yeah, I was like reading them myself as well. They were like easy-ish enough to read, but my parents would read them to me at night before I went to bed and stuff. And I was reading these in primary school. And this has actually helped me in my best friend became close. So we were both in our library in our primary school, and we were both going for like the same Rainbow Magic book because we both read the series. And anyway, we were like talking like, oh, I like these too. And we were like 6, and we were like, oh my gosh, I like them. And so yeah, that's like how me and my best friend became friends. Is we both were reading the Rainbow Magic series. So I just think that is so sweet. You know what I mean? Like, just the books have had such a special place in my whole life. Okay, so much of my life is being created through, you know, chains of situations that have happened with books. So yeah, that was the Rainbow Magic series. And then as I got a bit older, especially when I was like first in high school, I was reading the series of Unfortunate Events, the Lemony Snicket series, and that was so enjoyable. I loved that. I guess I kind of love like a bit of a gothic element. It's so true, I do. That was very similar to Flowers in the Attic as well, but like Flowers in the Attic is definitely not appropriate for children. But yeah, so that was what I read when I was like more in high school, and like, you know, Harry Potter and things as well, and like the Twilight series then as I got like older. But yeah, definitely Rainbow Magic stands out, and that, I think what else? There was this wild series. What was it called? It was like called like Mr. Gum or something. My parents hated it because it was so difficult for them to read because it was all like it was like tongue twisters and like poetry, like the way that it was written. But I thought this series was amazing. It was about this like creepy old guy who he would like steal things from people, and I don't know, it was a bit strange, but I really enjoyed that series as well. But yeah, that's all like books that I read when I was growing up. There's probably others as well, and I just can't remember. What are you reading at the moment? I guess I've already covered that. I would say that about the VC Andrews series, the Doppelganger series, which is amazing. I'm always so sad when I finish it. Like, I always do this to myself. Like, I absolutely blaze through something if I'm enjoying it. Like, I've read like 2 of them this week. Well, I'm like one and a half really, because I've not finished the second one. But I know when it finishes that I'm going to be so sad. So I'm like, should I just like savor? Should I read like a chapter a day to savor this moment? But I don't think I'll be able to do that. Okay, which Austen character would you want to date/marry? Great question. Let me think who I'm stuck between here. Okay, it's not gonna be Edmund, is it? God, he's gone. Not Edmund. It's not gonna be Edward Ferrars, because if you listen to the podcast, you also know I take trouble with him as well. So he's gone. I love Colonel Brandon, but I don't think he'd be quite right for me, but I really do appreciate the guy. So he's gone. He's too infatuated with Marianne. Let me think. Who's that? So, let's think. It's probably gonna. I don't think Henry Tilney's for me. Yeah. I feel like I could be. I feel like he'd get right on my nerves. I really do. I think he's great, and I love him, and I think I'd love to like chat to him, like be friends with him, maybe. Not that I have many male friends. To be fair, I tend to favour women nowadays in my life. Women friends. Although I do have a wonderful, like, my one male friend who is straight. Like, I have a lot of male gay friends. But yeah, I have like one male straight friend who's been my friend since I was little. And he has no idea about Jane Austen, but I just want to shout out to him because he's wonderfully supportive. And he said to me, it was so funny, we were in the car the other day, and he said, I'm like following your account and everything, and just like I like things because I want to be supportive. I want to support your ventures and like what you're doing. He's like, but I have no idea what any of this is about. And he said, is she still writing, Jane Austen? And I was, honestly, it cracked me up so bad. I was like, oh, I was in tears. That was so funny. I was like, no. She's been dead for like 230 years or something. So I was like, yeah, I was like, no, she's not still writing, dear. But thank you for the support. I appreciate the support all the same. Anyway, I'm going on like a tangent. Which one should you date, marry? But anyway, like my point being, like I feel like I could be friends with Henry Tilney because I feel like we'd have a lot in common. But I don't think I'd want to date or marry him. Okay, I feel like it's going to be between Darcy, Knightley, and Wentworth. And I can easily write off Wentworth. I love Wentworth. I do love Wentworth. But there's something about how like resentful he is about the whole like Anne thing that makes him act like so irrationally, and the fact that he's like held this grudge for so long. I just don't know if I could tolerate that, because I don't know. I feel like it's showing like lack of emotional regulation that I'm not sure I could be on board with. So I feel like I couldn't be with Wentworth because of that situation. Also, like, I know I'm the type of person, like, I really bounce back from things quickly. Like, there can be like a situation, but like I said, I just, because I must just like let go of certain things. So like I can be like, you know, there can be like a disagreement or a situation, and then when it's done and resolved, like for me it's like it's done and resolved, like that's that. um in Wentworth's not like that, and so I just couldn't bear somebody just like holding a grudge on me like forever, about certain things. So yeah, no to Wentworth. I love Darcy. I think he's so, I love Darcy. There's so much about Darcy, like his acts of service towards Elizabeth, and just like he's such an incredible leader and steward of like the people around him, and like a guardian of the people around him. And there's so much to be admired in him, and I love that he goes on his story of like development and things and takes accountability for like his past mistakes. However, because I'm more, like I was saying, like I'm more of like an Emma, not an Elizabeth in my own mind. Anyway, that's how I feel. I don't think I benefited. There's something about the way that Darcy is with Elizabeth. I feel like he concedes a lot to her. So especially if they get in like debate, it's like Darcy can start, but he can't. Elizabeth always seems to like win or get like one up. And I feel like he's so infatuated with her. I think she's so amazing because this is like the first woman who's been his equal in like intellect, and just like doesn't see him for like the money that he has and like the status. I feel like he puts her on a pedestal in a way that I really don't think I would benefit from personally, in a way that I don't think Emma would benefit from, because I really don't want somebody idolizing me and like, you know, not being able to challenge me if I slip up or make mistakes, or pointing out like my flaws. Like I actually kind of prefer that. I actually think, okay, like, this is a long way for me to say that. I think Knightley, I would be best suited to be with Knightley, and I think I probably would be with Knightley. There's a few reasons why I think that, because Knightley does not concede. He is like, I will be speaking my point, and like I don't mind if this means we end up in like an hour debate, but like I'm gonna put my feelings and thoughts out there. Especially like I feel like he's a real advocate for his fellow man, like, you know, decent men, not like Frank Churchill who are out there just like messing around women constantly, but like good men like Robert Martin. Like he's such an advocate for that, that I feel like I would also benefit from that, because I feel like I see a lot of the world through like, because I'm a woman, I see it through a woman's eyes, and also I'm surrounded by women a lot of the time, apart from like my dad and my brothers and things. So I feel like I would benefit from someone who is like a bit of an advocate for the man. And so, you know, is happy to, that we can have like healthy debates about certain things. I think would be, it makes it, I still think, I always think about that argument scene, I'm just like, oh god, that's like so me. In Also, like, Knightley's able to bounce back from these situations as well. Like, he doesn't hold a grudge, and he knows Emma makes mistakes and has these flaws, and he seems to be the only person who seems to recognize them, but he loves her because he knows that she's also flawed. Like, it's not like everyone else seems to put her on a pedestal and idolize her, but Knightley's like, he sees what her flaws are, and he knows about them, and he points them out to her, but he still loves her all the same. And I feel like I want someone who saw me as that complete person, not just like this projection of what they thought I was. And I also appreciate the way in which Knightley's romantic. As I was saying before, like I kind of like it when people are subtly romantic, like they're not doing things to get admiration from me. And I feel like there's certain things that Knightley does that just shows an understanding of Emma, in a way that other people don't, which I feel like are so romantic. Like the things like when he arranges, like he says about going to Box Hill and doing that because he knows that she wants to explore. Like she's been so confined to Hartfield and Highbury for so long. Like even just a day out to Box Hill will be like really appreciated by her. You know, and when he dances with her as well, he doesn't particularly like dancing, but he dances because she loves dancing and wants a partner in that moment. And then at the end, like when he gives up his independence to move into Hartfield to make her and her father comfortable, like because he himself, like he recognizes that to take Emma away would break her father's heart, and also would be so difficult on her as well because she's always looked after him. There's just things that he does, and he's not dramatic, and it's not over the top, and he doesn't need everybody to know that he does these things. Like he does them in service of Emma without the need for display, in a similar way that Darcy does. But yeah, there's something just, and he's such a leader of society. He's a great mentor to like other men and just like supporting them. And he's just like so kind to like other women and like people in more humble situations than his. Like with the Bateses, like he's always there to try and provide for them, make sure that they've got what they need. Nally's just the man, okay? The guy is the man. He obviously has a bit of a jealous streak when it comes to like Frank Churchill and stuff, and then seems to close up in himself. But you know, none of us are perfect, so I feel like that's a flaw. I feel like Knightley's flaws are flaws that I could love and appreciate and work with, and not be like, you know, detrimental. Whereas I feel like some other people characters' flaws, I'd be like, I'll struggle with that for sure. So yeah, I Knightley I think would be my perfect match. Also, I feel like in the 2009 Emma, Knightley's facial expressions like half the time, I'm literally just like, yeah, this is like the face of my, you know, future husband. Like this is probably what he would look like half the time. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, what is happening? What are you doing to me? But yeah, your nails always look great. Are they your actual nails? Well, that's very kind, thank you. They are my actual nails. I've actually gone much shorter this time. I've got, you won't be able to see if you're just listening, but I've kind of gone for like suns and like little wiggles and things and like this kind of yellowy mustardy colour. I've gone much shorter because I'm going to be camping and hiking for like 10 days this month. So usually I do have them quite long, which is why I think people think they're not real. But they are my actual nails. But I will say it takes a lot of time and discipline to that like for me to have got my nails to this point. So this is like a good 2 years worth of me always going to my nail tech who's incredible. And I have like builder gel, so it lasts for like a whole month and then my nails just like grow out. But my nail beds, my actual nail it's just honestly transformed them just looking after them this way. And I know that's such like a privilege to have the spare income to be able to do that. And it's something that I do, for me, I prioritize over other things because it just makes me feel so happy just having nice nails all the time. So yeah, anyway, they are my real nails. I do put a lot of time and energy into cultivating them and making sure that they stay like strong and things. Yeah, they are short at the moment, but yeah, sometimes I have them super long. I think I get length blindness. In this time, some of the gel did come off because at the end of the month, because I've been in like a pool and a sauna, I've been on holiday essentially, and they lifted slightly, and one of them, like I had to just get it off, otherwise it was going to snap the nail totally. Usually they last no problem the whole month, but saunas kill gel nails. And so you could actually see my actual nail like underneath, like you might be able to see on the. So yeah, it's very much my actual nail. But yeah, they got too long. It really freaked me out when I could see the actual nail underneath. I was like, ooh. What's the best advice you have taken from a Jane Austen novel? I'd say the best advice I've taken from like Jane Austen's novels in general is probably there is space to be pragmatic when it comes to love, as well as just, you know, following your heart. I think that's so important. I think Austen really emphasizes that. You can't help necessarily who you fall in love with. But I feel like when you're really considering like who you're going to spend the rest of your life with, like your companion, the person you're going to marry, if you want children, the person you're going to have children with, I feel like there's something around like actually being pragmatic at the same time. Like, are you two people who could actually go through life together? Like, do you have the same views on like finances and just like preferences for how you want to raise children, or how you want to live your life, where you want to holiday, how you want to spend your time? And I feel like a lot of the time, like we don't have those like serious conversations with partners. I don't know whether that's like fear of like losing people, like just in case you have like differences and you weren't expecting. But I personally, like after reading Austen, like I really see the importance of it. In I don't that's not necessarily all like money related either. Like I feel like it's just like who's going to manage what areas of your life, and what are your expectations of like other people. Like I think it's the best thing in the world is to not have expectations and preferences of someone, and to be able to go through life just as two beings who exist together and can enjoy each other's company and just like love each other, and it kind of be in a more unconditional way. However, the realities of life is that's incredibly difficult to sustain, and we're always going to get caught up in our minds and start, you know, having expectations and preferences, which aren't always easy to dilute. So yeah, I think there is something about like being pragmatic realistically. Is this someone that you genuinely can spend the rest of your life with harmoniously, because at the end of the day, like, a lot of the reasons why relationships break down is not because of lack of love, but tends to be lack of like understanding and lack of preparation for what it's like to spend the rest of your life with somebody. So yeah, I think being pragmatic when it comes to relationships is super important as well. Like, you could have the best love in the world with somebody, but in the end of the day, it, like, for me, for instance, like, if they had totally different views on finances or the way that they wanted to live their life, like if they wanted to live in like a grand estate but I want to live in a little cottage, like, these are things that you can't reconcile. Or if, you know, it's important to them that you know, they have lavish things or go on multiple holidays a year, but for me, I'm like I appreciate the importance of compound interest. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just certain things that you, or like with children, if one of you wants children, one of you doesn't, there are some things you cannot reconcile. One of you wants pets and one of you doesn't. I mean, that's something that I really, you know what I mean? If I couldn't be with someone who didn't like animals or like dogs, because I have Huggy, who is my whole world and I love him to bits, and I would want other animals in the future, I'm sure. So yeah, I feel like it is just like being sensible and not just falling head over heels for someone because you have these feelings and they talk a good game, like in a Willoughby sense. Like, you have to be practical and seek out the more Colonel Brandon sides of people as well. So yeah, I think that's probably the best lesson I've learned. And I think as well, like, the other one is, I really love the Mansfield Park quote where it's like, we all have a better guide in ourselves if we would attend to it, or something like that, than any other person can be. And that's something else that I've really thought about a lot in the past few years, I'd say. Is like listening to your own intuition and your own inner guidance system. Like, you have the answers that you need. You don't always need to seek out externally for those answers. And I feel like you will know, if you listen to your inner guidance system, what is the best choice and direction for you. And no other person can pick that particular blend of life that's suited to your soul better than you can. So yeah, that's the other lesson I've taken away. Oh my gosh, we're at the last question. Oh my god, it's only 2 hours long. This is wild. I know it's not certain if you'll carry on with the podcast next year. Will you? I hope you do. Oh, that's very nice. That's very kind of you. It's not going to look the same even if I do. There are a few things that I'm like, it is likely that I don't think I'll be able to give it up, is my main thing. Is like, I don't think I could give up this space and chatting about Austen, but it won't be to the extent that it's been this year, for sure. All of my free time is spent making Austen content at the moment, not just on here, but like when it's like vlogs or like this mini project that I'm doing with the local theatre group is taking up all of my kind of spare free time. And I want the space to be able to create content that's non-Austen related about other things that I'm really passionate about. I loved creating the Her Stories, Our Story series, and I've literally only managed like 3 or 4 videos on that. But there's so many more that I want to create. So yeah, it's going to be different, I guess, going forward. I mean, this is going to be the 5th year of the podcast, so it's been a long time, and I've loved it. But yeah, I feel like I kind of want to wind things down on a high, then drag it out and just like start just putting content out there that I'm not proud of. At the moment, I'm really happy with the body of work I've created, and I kind of want to protect that by not then throwing out stuff to just, like, you know, let the podcast slowly die and the quality of content, or at least the quality content I think I'm putting out. So yeah, that's my thought process. I will wind it down. There are still things that I'll probably want to create, but it won't be as it has been this year or like years previously where there's these consistent episodes. It might be a few more bonus episodes that I put out, or doing like more of like a members only section where I maybe read through the book chapter by chapter, if that's something people will be interested in, and we analyse per chapter, and it's a little bit more of like a close-knit community, as another option. But yeah, I just want the time to explore other authors, other stories, continue the Her Stories, Our Story series, and just want some time to like write and read more bits just for pleasure again, I suppose, is my thought process. Yeah, I want the chance to explore other areas of my life now as well, I think. So yeah, it's got to slow down because I just don't have the capacity for everything, but it's been the most beautiful journey, honestly. I've loved every moment of it. So and I'm still enjoying creating it. It's just it takes up a lot of time and commitment. So I can't do it all, unfortunately. I think that is everything. How exciting. I literally think I've covered all the questions off, which is so good. Thank you so much, everyone who put a question forward. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I know it's a bit different than what I usually do, but it's been a pleasure to sit down and chat with you guys. But yeah, that is pretty much everything from today. I'm going to enjoy my birthday weekend, and the next episode will be out the end of June. I've got another character study coming out, which is really exciting. So yeah, I hope you check back in for that. And that's everything from me today, and I will see you in another episode. Do you want to say hello quickly? You're like, why have you got a potato, mummy? You want to say hi? You're my sweet boy, aren't you? Yeah, my sweet boy.